Okay, we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Semantic Agents. I'm Beatrice Gamba, the host of the podcast. And let's dive immediately into it because today we've got a very interesting person that we are going to talk with, and I don't want to waste any time. So, uh, let's start with thinking that one of the assumptions that we rarely question is that discovery is an active process. So we search, compare, click, open tabs. We were discussing tabs earlier. We build understanding by moving through a network of sources. And for decades, this behavior shaped the way we think, and then, of course, the web that eventually adapts to it, and vice versa sometimes. So, search engines retrieve documents, right? And the humans started to assembling the meaning. We were also discussing it before. But today that is changing, right? So the LLMs are not simply pointing us towards the information, but they are synthesizing it. They are compressing the sources into one single response, like one hit response, and they remove the every visible step that once connected the question to the answer. And sometimes this feels like frictionless, and we can think like, hey, this is very comfortable and cool, but this also raises some deeper questions, like what happens when discovery no longer requires the navigation? What happens when uncertainty is hidden behind a language that sounds fluent, but is it on point? So I have these and more questions for Gianluca Fiorelli, which I'm joined by today. Gianluca has long studied the evolution of search from a very broad perspective. So it's not just rankings or algorithms, it's also behavior, language, intent, and the very cultural role of the discovery systems. And this makes him an ideal guide for this conversation. So I welcome Gianluca.
Hi, Beatrice. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, me too. I really looked forward to this one. In fact, this episode is designed as just a dialogue rather than an interview, and the questions are intentionally, I would say, like broad and conceptual to let the conversation breathe and flow. So let's start with what feels like it's the most visible change. So for most of the web's history, discovery involved movement. So people had to actually search, evaluate the options, construct their own understanding. Whereas now it's like the AI systems that are increasingly collapsing that process into one, which is basically synthesis. So I wanted to ask to look at what happens to discovery when navigation disappears.
Well, discovery, we were talking about this just before starting the live stream. The discovery is going to be missed, or not, maybe not missed, but it's going to be amputated. We are going probably to miss the serendipitous discovery, the kind of the classic surfing the web. So when you were doing a search on Google or Bing and you were clicking on a search result, maybe you were fine, you find your source, happy, but maybe you were going back to the search, refining the query, finding new documents to explore, to analyze, and to read. And then maybe you were just jumping from that document that was linking to another document, and so on and so on and so on. Now, uh, we have all these pre-cooked answer written on the fly thanks to the probabilistic sequence of words that AI is considering the most adapt for the answer. And formally, they give you the opportunity to do this kind of discovery that we were talking about, but it is so hidden. Let's see with the changes that, for instance, Google is promising in trying to give more space and more visibility to the sources that are used for the answer. But this portion to do a click is substantially disappearing. And I think it's also related to how people substantially think when it comes to search. When we ask something, usually uh, they are satisfied by the answer. Because, as you were saying, the answer can be very persuasive in it's like when it happened also to me when sometimes when I talk and I especially it was I remember it's an anecdote when I was still working in the television and I was saying no this is the director of this movie and I was saying it with such a conviction in my tone of voice that people okay and then I discovered that I was wrong in the information that I was giving and this is the same effect no matter how correct or wrong or partially correct or partially wrong, people usually is satisfied with the answer. And people is also satisfied with the fact that they don't need to further search by themselves. So
Yeah.
this is also is not just it's not just the LLM in itself, but it's also they are playing with an attitude, with a behavior, which is mm, let's say not I don't want to call it laziness of search by the people, but a sort of conservative don't want to think too much when I search something. And if someone is responding to me, fine. That probably is the answer that I need.
This is very true, and sometimes I feel like because they write so well and they can kind of interpret the tone of voice you want them to reply you with, that they kind of mask like that. How do we know if what they are telling us is true, because it's masked by this fluency, and the reply seems so on point, but then is the content factually correct? So it makes you wonder, like, is it true or not, just because it's well expressed? And then another point that I was thinking of when you were talking earlier, does this mean that we will also like miss out any of the options and of the like opportunities to broaden our knowledge because of this uh, serendipity that won't be there during the search process? Like, will we miss out on something as humans? Like, on there will be missed opportunities for learning new things. And also, if models, like we were mentioning, like AIO before, like if models will know more about us, but they won't ever, will they be able to arrive at some point where they can perfectly say, okay, Beatrice will want to know about this after she searches for this?
Yes, I believe so. We also, when we talk about the system, we also never forget the business facet of these businesses. We also know that this is a characteristic of all the LLMs and all the AI search systems that they have imbued in their code these things that they should not sound, cynical when talking, not sound something. Oh, you ask a stupid thing. They cannot answer like this. They always have this sort of sycophantic tone of voice, and even if you ask them the most absurd thing, are going to say that this is a great idea. So this is imbued in their code. With some nuances depending on the model. Sometimes Claude is a little more honest. Let's see. But there is the business reason why, because if you're condition that with the person we're searching, and then the classic nudge with a follow-up question at the end. People stays, for instance, on Google. Google in the Google I/O just yesterday says, "Oh, we have 1 billion queries in AI mode, or a huge number of queries." But obviously, if every follow-up question is a new query, it's easy to sum up new queries in the numbers, in the statistics. And what we are going to miss is, sincerely, because again, how the models are developed, we are going to miss the contrarian idea. So we are going to live in answers that are wonderful encyclopedic consensus. And even if, for instance, Google lately has advised us, SEO, for not creating commodity content, at the end of the day, the commodity content is the answer itself.
Yeah.
And it's quite contradictory to create information gain, as we are used to say, so to propose also a different point of view when the models are based on consensus and immediately look with suspicion everything that is going against the consensus. I mean, I can accept it for things that are, I don't know, health, your money, your life. But for some kind of knowledge, generic knowledge, I mean, you have to give spaces. So this is something that I think people are going to miss in AI search with respect to the classic search.
Yeah, there's like an illusion of knowing that
Yes.
sometimes applies to both parts, like also who searches and these models that give the illusion that they know. And in a way, like many people experience LLMs as if they simply know things. But technically, we know that there's predictions that is still grounded in retrieved information, but it's mostly just predictions. Uh, do you think that users misunderstand how these systems work? So how again, also here, does the fluent language create a false sense of certainty? And what misconception concerns you the most?
Yes, I think that the majority of the people using LLMs, and so not people like me or you, but we work with LLMs, we study them, and so on and so on. Quite surely, from what I understand and what I'm seeing, also with friends, with family, is the probabilistic nature of LLMs. So also because we had 20 plus years of deterministic search. So if we are searching this, the information retrieval mechanism is going to retrieve this information because of this query. So this is the first thing. And the second thing is that even if it's a correct, the query for now is a correct kind of way of expanding the probability and the source corpus that can generate an answer, very probably people don't know that there is something called query fan out. They think that we are just answering to the question you have done. And the problem is that, but this is something that also many SEO don't know, that the query fan out most of the time is based on the training data. And for instance, if you are asking for recommendation about what are the best brands for this and that, most of the time, the brand that is going to suggest entering query fan out because they are in the training data. So this is, for instance, for us, SEO is a big problem because if a client of ours is not in the training data yet, that probably is going to be a problem because it's not going to be in the query fan out, hence it's not going to be between the sources that the query fan out is going to retrieve. So these are obviously a little complicated stuff to explain to normal people. Maybe we need, as I always ask to smarter people than me, we need a David Attenborough, a sort of Carl Sagan, able to explain these uh, complex things, not complicated, complex things, in a very divulgative way to the main public.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Because also sometimes, like, if you use it for work, you are using it for, work. There is no, like, ideally, unless you are like a physician, or there are no real concerns implied, like no health related things, but the people sometimes use it to ask for questions that imply a lot of personal matters, like health, like food,
Mental
that
health, yes.
exactly. So that can totally like mess up people's lives. So I do believe that if you're using it for your everyday things, then there should really be like a guide on how to read the the replies.
Yes, in fact, I remember one study that it was a study done by OpenAI itself. And so how people are using OpenAI. And actually search wasn't the biggest in percentage. So the search meant as searching something, but mostly was used for generative AI, so creating image, creating video, and then for somehow for talking, literally for talking with someone, like a phoenix in the Air movie. So chatting with someone who is always able, never is tired to listen to you, and is always open and able to say that you are fine, that you are going to be great, and so on. This sort of, you know, wonderful pink world that is painting
Yeah,
the
the
LLM.
comfort, the
Yeah,
comfort of having something that can interpret your needs
yes. In
and
fact, it's
always
very
be there
common,
for you.
especially in the younger generation, to use the ChatGPT as your personal psychologist.
Yeah,
Instead of talking with your best friend, you're talking with your best friend ChatGPT about, oh, my boyfriend left me, what I've done, what do you suggest me, etc., etc. And obviously, all the things, weird things coming from Reddit are going to compose a wonderful
yeah,
nonsensical answer.
exactly. Yeah, 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 yeah. There was like a cartoon episode that I saw, um, that the whole episode is based on these schoolmates that would only do what ChatGPT tells them to do like the whole day. And of course, at the end of the day, it's a whole mess. Like, because it told them to do like the craziest of things. Um, but back to us. I think that perhaps the reason why sometimes the answers given by LLMs feel so seamless is that the systems can interpret the intent before we can actually fully express it. So that can be one thing. Um, and then we know that search query used to be an explicit act, as we said, right? Just translating our need into language, natural language. So now that process, as we are saying with query, fan out, is increasingly inferred, reformulated by machines. So are we moving toward a world where the query itself will disappear? And what will replace the query? And again, like, can intent become something that the systems can predict?
Well, this is something that this, let's talk, talking about intent. And so especially the implied intent behind a query, this is something that, especially Google, was already very good in inferring, even before everything AI. And that Well, even before commercial AI, because Google was already using AI since, RagBrain, for instance. RagBrain is a good example of how Google was already using AI for interpreting very long verbose questions, which are substantially the same question people ask with a conversational search. And so all the system that Google suggests were already a prediction of the next search. The people also ask, actually, even if they are not really real questions, they are made up questions based on knowledge base of all the trillions questions people ask to Google about a topic. And so on and so on. Related searches always are based on predicting, based on statistical data, what can be the next step in a search. So also in the classic search, all these things were uh, present. And also how Google was painting the SERP was really made up on inferring the statistically most probable intent behind a search, a search query. So if it was showing you the shopping or merchant feed, it's because it's inferring that the intent is most probably transactional. If it's presenting the same shopping and merchant feed, but also a shopping guide, or a people also ask, or the blog about topics, etc., is because people wants to buy something, but still need a final bit of information before deciding what to buy and if to buy, really, and so on and so on and so on. So Google was already shaping the SERP based on this kind of inference on its knowledge base. And the follow-up question that Google is spitting up, but also Claude, also Gemini, well, Gemini is Google, ChatGPT and Perplexity are substantially based on them. In this case, there is a probabilistic element inside included, but it's a statistically high probable question that is going to be asked after. It's the most logical question according to mathematics, substantially. And is not so different. That's why, for instance, when in my work, what I pay a lot of attention to this follow-up question. I consider it as important as the people also ask, as the related searches and so on and so as the Google suggests, because they are hinting me, giving me the opportunity to not work a strategy, for instance, a content strategy in a void. It's making me able to have a sort of border inside which I can build this strategy and not going outside and, for instance, starting creating content that is barely related to my client's business and maybe not the kind of content that people want to see in my client system and my client's website, so on and so on. So I think that this is somehow the situation, and that's why I really like to spend time looking at reserves, looking at the answer, and so on.
So I'm wondering, like, for us that work in the digital space, also in terms of content, creator, advisors, if intent again is predicted, how does it change what we do? Like, of course, like to me, the most precious advice is to follow the core of your business. Like most of what we are already doing would work. But again, because these systems work differently than traditional search, there are, of course, some things that also change in the strategy. But you can only cover so much without going completely out of scope.
Yes, you're right. And but I think that, I mean, we uh, maybe the mistake is somehow a remnant of how we were doing SEO before. Before things like traffic, because traffic was the main metric, and it was coming like a flood. Now but now the traffic is scarce. We are considering, okay, people start to think back and say, but all that traffic was really useful. And that is maybe the kind of mental framework that was making so many SEO strategy, relying on creating massive amount of content just to attract traffic, even if this traffic was not going to be useful at all. Uh, Arriving to certain kind of absurd situation, like I remember a travel website, an hotel website, but just because in the hotel there was an important element related to the spa, they start creating and flooding the blog with uh, wellness related content, but so much that Google was ranking this website just for wellness related keyword. Totally misunderstanding the nature itself of a website. It's not a spa website, it's an hotel website. So, and this is probably the first consideration. Sometimes we forget to be self critical to what we have done. And so now I think that you have to concentrate, as you were saying, to the broad core of a business. It doesn't mean that you don't have to create also informational content, for instance, but what you have to do is concentrate on the main topics related to your business. And when you are creating a strategy, a content strategy, be sure that you are covering all the search journey. Because what we are seeing, the reason why there is so the traffic is shrinking is because all the models, all the surface, and I include also social in this case, are want to retain the user inside the platform. And so if the search journey is inside the platform, we need to stay visible all along the search journey. And if we are just targeting, for instance, a topic which is important for us, only with let's say, a landing page, but not with informational content, we are totally absent from the first discovering phase of search. But we are going maybe to be also invisible in the final moment of search when people are still now click and go to a website and maybe in the future decide that Piaget is going to make the click for us. So that is what is really changing for me in the content strategy. I mean, this is something that I was thinking already when I started to see the phenomenon of a zero-click search. But it's even more now. Even if, for instance, just a couple of days ago, Ryan Fishing with Datos presented a new interesting update about the, the state of a zero-click SERP. And it seems that something is changing because zero-click decreased with respect to before. Google increased also the click on the ads, but this is by design by Google, as as because how they change the design of the ads that really looks like an organic search results.
Yeah, yeah. So it looks like more decisions are moving beneath the surface. So
Yes.
sometimes it's like the what are the real mechanism of discovery are becoming harder and harder to see. Because on the other hand, like modern AI interfaces look very simple, they're pretty lean, but behind them, we know that there are like embeddings, ranking systems, retrieval pipelines, semantic structures. So I'm wondering, does the future of discovery become increasingly invisible to users? So during my last conversation with Lazarina, we mentioned like, will website, and also with Andrea, will websites still be a thing in the coming years? Like how much of what we have now will still be visible moving forward?
I think that the website are going to be still important. Um, from one side, and making maybe a weird metaphor, and maybe websites are going to be like vinyl long playing disc with a niche market that is still going to, buying them because of the quality of the sound, etc., etc. So obviously, but this is going to be just part of the answer. Then there is the other part of the answer. It's true that LLMs and AI search is a big part of the discovery and of the search journey, but it's not the only touch point. So the website still must be, from one side, it's going to have this, it's going probably to have a dual nature, a database for the agents and a real experience for the humans. Because surely there are going to be hundreds and hundreds of people that reading the brands suggested by an AI answer will search for the name of a brand and click on the search snippet on page because they still want to see, okay, what is going to be this and that. And social, even if social is not sending any more that much traffic as it was, organic traffic as it was many years ago, still is a source for people then typing in the website, the domain of a website, and visiting the website. Newsletter, I mean, newsletter is surely the most classic and still one of the most important channel for discovery and traffic. And that is text, link, and going to a website and blah, blah, blah. So yes, I think we are going to have this dual nature. And then even if in the very beginning of our conversation, I was talking about the laziness of the general public, also considering me in the general public, I think that people slowly but steadily will understand that, for instance, agentic commerce, okay, it's fine. The agents will propose you the best product, the kind of product. But what about the, the opportunity of buying something else when you are buying already something, which is possible only on the website. It's not possible on a search surface. It's not going to, to add you more product. If you are buying this, then the website is usually suggesting something else, and people fall in that something else. And for instance, for very complex, Google is announcing that is allowing more and more, for instance, to book flights from the search. And but for instance, when it comes to hotels and vacation stays or cruise, what about all the added options that are in the
Yeah,
package?
exactly.
But I don't see, at least in this moment, maybe in the future, yes, but in this moment, I don't see agentic commerce, using agentic commerce as a general term, able to offer the same experience you can have on a website. And I think that people will start to do something like this to understand this kind of situation. And maybe, okay, if I need to buy something very fast and I need, I don't know, something for my kitchen for cleaning, okay, I don't go to checking all the different type of brand about a cleaning product. But for certain kind of buys, yes,
I also think that when it comes to agentic shopping, uh, like the how you organize your e-commerce data will matter more and more. Also because of these side options. Like if I want to book with an agent a holiday for me, my pets, my kids, and then I have certain specific needs as I want to be, I want to have a pool, but still have a whole house for myself and my family. If you are able to, using metadata, structured data, organized data that agents can consume, then you're going to win that part of, the
totally,
shopping
totally.
experience. So the reality is that uh, most brands and companies do not have their data in place yet. Um, but this is
Yes,
also something that will need to be done. And I think that there are a lot of missed opportunities also for companies there.
totally, totally. But this is all the good, let's say, markup. So creating your, let's say, internal knowledge graph in order to use also internally on the website when a person is coming to the website, so to better suggest the things to a client, potential client. Surely this is extremely important. And surely it's going to be important if for agentic shopping on the search. But if we are talking about search surfaces, like it could be AI mode, when arrives this moment of buying such complex type of products, or Google, for instance, or ChatGPT, whenever you decide to do also these kind of things, or is moving you to a dedicated second surface, which has all this data retrieved from the website. It can be a schema, can be a feed, whatsoever. If not, it's very complicated. I see very complicated doing this kind of shopping experience inside AI mode. Sincerely.
Yeah.
So that's why Google is maintaining, and it's nobody's talking about it that much about flight.google.com, shopping, the shopping experience, but also hotels, etc., etc., etc. Because he knows that these are maybe the kind of subdomain and surfaces where this more, this deeper kind of shopping experience must be developed, not in the general surface.
And I'm also thinking that, I mean, the way these work as of now, because basically what we're saying is that also citations, recommendation will be able to preserve the diversity of what we want to look for, or what we are looking for. Like if I have like a minority viewpoint, will it become more fragile? Will it still be covered? But
Well,
not in
but
political terms. Like
no, yes, I totally
this.
understand you because it's the discussion that we had before about consensus and how all the systems substantially give a privilege to consensus and look with suspicion to something that is not consensus. In that case, we must learn from the academics, in my opinion, because whenever a scientist, for instance, is proposing a new theory, it's always start with this is the consensus, and I accept all this consensus. But there is also this potential new way to look at things. So this is a way to, I call it the Trojan horse, using consensus to insert information gain and the very original things that you can give to the discussion. For instance, if everybody, I live in Valencia, Spain, if everybody are going to suggest the classic 10 things to do in Valencia, then I can say, okay, in the 10 things to do in Valencia, I use, obviously, because cannot be not cited, the things that everybody is citing, but also adding new things, the one that nobody's citing, but I know that can be interesting for a tourist to see. And then another thing that is interesting is that you can be, and usually when we talk about consensus, is we are talking about consensus in terms of just the the things contained in a document. But consensus can be also, you can be using that kind of consensus by changing the container. So if everybody is using, for instance, a top 10 list, maybe you can use a totally different type of format. I don't know, an interactive map with, or a quiz. So creating a quiz that is trying to understand all the person who is viewing the page, and so based on the results of the quiz, presenting the 10 things to see for you, based on your taste, based on your needs. Maybe you have a kids, maybe you have a teen, maybe you are just a couple or newlywed couple, and so on
Of
and so
course.
on.
Yeah.
So the information gain in this case is not just about the content itself, it's also about how different it is presented.
I agree, and it's an interesting point of view. So we have the last 10 minutes. I wanted to like personally ask you something that came up while we were talking. And I think it can be an interesting closing question. So, uh, what is one behavior around search and discovery today that, future generations will find completely unnatural?
I think that, I mean, it may sound stupid, but we are a generation that learn how to ask question in a very unnatural way to search engine. And so maybe the new generation, they will talk, I mean also literally talk to a search surface, like asking a question to a friend. So very conversational. So for them, maybe seeing still their boomer father doing search like Hotel Madrid, just two words, will sound very, very weird, very, very boomer. And it's less stupid than it may sound, but it's really about the different type of framework, mental framework when doing a search. When we know that if we were starting to make this search too verbose, too long, maybe we're starting to see very weird search results. And so we were starting with a short one and then refining by ourselves the kind of search. Now it's a conversational search. So for a conversational search, you already have quite decent answer, because it's true that sometimes the answers are weird, but let's say personally, in my experience, the biggest time of the time the answer are acceptable. I mean, if you need a quick answer, many answers given by AI are acceptable. But then if you want to continue, continue with the conversation. This is going to be the norm with the new search bar Google is shipping, starting from yesterday. And what people are going to, the new generation are going to surely, and this is something that we should really pay attention to. This younger generation were already using Lens a lot. We're using Cycle to search a lot. And now with the possibility inside the Google search bar to upload your image, to search in a video, to search in audio, to all this kind, or even searching in application in a different tab, etc., etc. these are the kind of searches that we must pay attention to, and especially as we probably are going to see an even bigger boom of visual search. And
Yeah,
this is something that our field, my field of SEO, never pay attention to.
yeah,
So not
yeah, I
just
agree.
embedding, it's also something that,
Yeah,
for instance, Andrea started to talk a lot about, which is image embedding, etc., etc., etc.
yeah, yeah, I agree. I also believe that, just the typing and writing will seem old, like something that
Oh, yeah, yeah,
younger generations don't do anymore. Like, I think that the future of search is also not typed. It's like spoken to and like vocally.
yeah. Years and years of WhatsApp vocals have
Yeah.
I've thought a lot about just doing going vocal. And I have another anecdote. I was the other day in a mall here in Valencia, and I was asking for something that I wasn't able to find, and um, the clerk didn't type in anything on the PC. He opened the smartphone, asked, I think it was Gemini because it was Google directly, and asked directly to Google about the one specific characteristic because I was asking about the blend of a specific product. So he directly asked with a voice talk. And yes, it was a young clerk. It may be still natural to open and typing. Also
Yeah.
because I feel very weird talking to a phone. Personally, this is just a personal. I hate vocals, so and usually, if someone is writing, answering, contacting me with a vocal on WhatsApp, I usually respond with a text.
Yeah, yeah, same.
But you are right. Yes, maybe they so treated, they saw and announced many years ago. Voice search is going to be, but
Yeah,
anyway, conversational search is especially voice search.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, it's been there, like hanging in there, just waiting to become a thing. And I think it's happening.
But another thing that I think we should start paying attention to is how search is going to be finally and for once starting to be done in surfaces that are not the smartphone, are not the PC. For instance, just like is an example, the consumption of YouTube video is bigger on TV sets than on PC and desktop together. And for instance, Google is not a casual, but Google is revamping all the home device
Yeah,
with Gemini inside. So we're not going to to fight with a clunky AI assistant vocal system, but we are directly talking with Gemini 3.5. So it's going to be really so. Search is it's an exciting time, but it's a complicated time, and mostly because it's very hard to measure.
yeah. That's yeah, the big elephant in the room.
Yes.
Good. So I don't know if there are any questions, but we are almost out of time. So in case you have any, you can direct them on LinkedIn or just leave them here, and they will appear on I think on the
I
LinkedIn event.
see that in the chat was Metahan. Hey, Metahan. Hope you are having fun with us.
Yeah, yeah. So again, we are closing just in time. So thank you, Gianluca, for being
You're
here. It was
welcome.
an amazing
It was a
conversation.
pleasure.
Yeah, always very eye-opening. And thank you, everyone, for staying with us. And we speak on LinkedIn.
Bye bye.
Bye.